AskGunQuestions.com is a website that we built back in 2007, and since then, for the last 15 years, people have been able to ask questions of simple to advanced nature, and we attempt to answer them in different ways over the years. Join us now as we start a new series to answer gun questions. Hey, welcome everybody to our live show where we answer gun questions that come in. So we've got Tony joining us from New Jersey. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
And Clover is ditching us. So let me see if I can't go grab the database here. Clover's from Texas. He'll jump in when he feels like it once in a while, but I guess he's busy. He does his family stuff on some Saturdays, so probably something going on. I'm scrolling through our database. So when you go to gunquestions.com and ask a question, it goes into a list, and there's only one question that has come in this week. So we'll just jump on that, and then we'll address the stuff that's coming in live. So we do this live. So thanks everybody for joining us. We do have a poll out there. So if anybody is listening to us live here or joining us live here, feel free to vote in that poll. It's absolutely free today to vote. And if you're listening in the future, we'll talk about the results of that poll, I'm sure, as the show goes on. So I guess before we get going, say hey to Tony. How did let's see, when you didn't have both shoot this week, did you?
I think I did. No, I didn't. Wait a minute.
No, it was last week, I think.
Yeah. It was last week we had.
Next week, though, on the 31st, you got one?
Yes. Yeah, I have one on the 31st. I just dropped by that range today. Made another video, posted up a video. Tickets are actually sold. We have half our available tickets sold already.
That's cool. So when that happens, can tell, is it like a group or something that does that, or is it just a coincidence and a bunch of people got on it early?
I think a bunch of people got on it early because I advertised it early. Our next event, after this is at the end of September, but I think I'll just go ahead and put it up this weekend to give people time to know that it's coming up. Because sometimes it depends on what I post on social media. I get shadow banned, and maybe some people won't see my post. So if I do an entire month, I put it up as stories, I put it up as reels, and I put it up as regular posts. Something will get through. Something will get through. So that's what I'm doing now. I'm just looking at it as more of a long range thing. Instead of putting events on Eventbrite 2 weeks before, I'm putting them up for the entire month.
Yeah, I think that's worth it. And then in this case, I guess, where if somebody's anticipating it every 2 weeks or something, you don't get to do that. So let them know that it's another month out. That might help them let them know to join up on this next one next week instead of waiting a month.
Yeah, because it's really one of those human nature things. It's like, do you put it up and go, hey, we're having these every 2 weeks, and someone goes, well, if I don't make this one, I'll make the next one. Or is it, hey, thanks for giving me time enough to, make sure I don't have any plans that day and I'm able to be there. It's two different, you know what I mean? You're trying to reach that balance of which is too early, or is there such a thing as too early? Also, Eventbrite allows me to email anyone who's purchased a ticket already, prior to a prior event or previous event, excuse me, and send them an email to make them aware that we have an event coming up and where. So I've been also using that. I was doing it every day, and then I chilled out a little bit, and I'm doing it every 3 days or so. And as we get closer to the event, I'll hit them up every day.
Been highlighting the people that are joining us live. So since we've got a minute and there's only the one question, we haven't chatted about it in a while. So how has Eventbrite been working? Is there anything on Eventbrite that we would change, or it must be working to some extent because you're still using it?
It's working to some extent, but I blame myself. I'm thinking there are more ways for me to use Eventbrite, but also they limit it because when I'm doing, there are more ways to use Eventbrite according to them. They shoot me emails and ask me to get on creators forums or creators workshops. And I'm like, Yeah, no. It's like I don't know if I want to do that only because of time. Like I'm doing other things, but I think I really need to take an afternoon and go through and see if I can actually use the options they provide. When I tried to do the email, I can send emails to people who purchase tickets to previous events. But when I try to create an email campaign, because I host them at ranges, they won't allow me to use that address. They won't allow me to do it. So I'm like, what the heck? Because I've seen other people who host events on Eventbrite, like firearms classes, because you can type word search in. So I've done it and I've seen firearms classes and I'm like, yo, I bet they can't advertise either. I should contact them and see what's up. See if they're able to advertise using Eventbrite's options. Yeah, I'm just going to pull it up real quick. Yeah, they have entire campaigns, and I'm like, oh, what the hell? I can't use it because it's at a range. What if I was teaching women self-defense without a
Yeah.
firearm?
Or just like firearm safety. I mean,
Hmm.
I don't know. I guess that's what their problem is. But if if it's how to not hurt yourself or what to do when there's a firearm around,
They're clowns. I mean, really.
it's probably not a hard stance, honestly, unless they make a big stink about it and they're like big advocates for the moms who demand.
Hmm.
They're probably just by default thought that guns equal violence, so therefore will so hopefully it's something that can be challenged.
I just because we do what we do, we see the other side. We see for what is actually happening as a culture war thing. Meanwhile, yeah, you're right. They might just have a default that is if it's at a range, just promoting firearms and guns are bad, and they just leave that alone and they never put any more thought to it. Not understanding that they've pretty much picked a side in a culture war without even being aware of it. You just hear this all the time, and you just went with that because you perceive it as less resistance.
That's a good
Because
point. And they figure the other side is a bunch of crazy agitator, violent, rowdy people. So who cares if you marginalize them? It's a good point.
Mm-hmm. And meanwhile, the others have they're as gun owners and as Second Amendment advocates, we kind of lose we're horrible at the image we create for ourselves. We know what we are, but we allow others to paint us into a corner. Like moms demand action. Oh, just sounds like, a bunch of moms trying to do the right thing and keep kids safe. And then our organization is the National Rifle Association. It's like, you guys just care about guns. And it's like, wow, real easy to paint you into that corner.
Well, but keeping in mind that NRA has been around since whenever they came up with that name, and it was cool, I guess, or trendy in whatever 1917 or something. So, moms when they were created, when they were invented, right? They're created by marketing people with an agenda. So they were able to, with the existence of NRA, position themselves, like you say, to be this. Well, at least the their goal was to be this message over here. But
and let's not forget National Rifle Association, 1871.
Yeah, exactly. A long time
ago. Yeah,
and
a long
it's
time
sort
ago.
of a traditional, like, let's just leave it alone. And it's, they haven't changed the name every 10 years or anything, or even every 50 years.
Moms Demand and those groups change their names every 3 to 5 years. They call themselves something else because it's all about marketing. It's all about marketing. And our thing is about a civil right. NAACP is still the NAACP, Association for Advancers of Color People. It's a right. I don't have to change the name, but yeah, we are in a kind of way losing the marketing war because of whom we have against us. I mean, if it's in the media all the time, that's a media bias. It's a social media bias.
Own or pay for the media. So whatever you want to look at it, they either are the media, they own the media, or else they got enough money to just pay for the thing, and the media is willing to take their money for their position. So okay, fine, big deal. So they've got they got us surrounded now. We know who's against us, right? I'm not too worried about that part of it, but I think the thing that I don't get too frustrated about being surrounded like that is because they're a lot of straw. Is that the way to say it? Like they're held up, and their position is like you just said. Like their position is a marketing based thing. They're using the awareness and I guess awareness is the best word. Like the level of interest and the level of awareness that the country has. Just that every the millions of people out there. They gauge that, and they determine what scares them, what distracts them, what gets them upset, what moves them, and when needed, that just like it's like Pepsi or something. If they've got a group of people who they know how to make them buy Pepsi, and they decide to hook up with the hot dog company, and they make a new holiday called the Pepsi hot dog holiday, that's engineered. And every once in a while, when people see that those kind of mechanisms happen, then they start to figure out how to move those. So, they're just a player in the big game or whatever of, we can motivate this group of people based on their awareness and the messaging. And our side has played along with that to some extent, and I don't want to say played along like in cohesion, but because this is what I was going to get at before, we're a bunch of individuals. We're not this other side. The other side is a single person with a pocketbook who pays people who know what to do. The lady who worked with Monsanto on Roundup, right? When Roundup was giving cancer to everybody, the lady who dealt with all that at Monsanto is Watts, Shan, and she got hired for more money to go work as this quote unquote what do they call it? What do they call it? AstroTurf?
AstroTurf. Yep.
Right, because it looks like grassroots. But so she's an inventive marketing person, and so she's got a monotone message on her side. She can move the fronts however she wants. Where on our side, we're a bunch of individuals. We're kind of like a bunch of herd of sheep, but we're more like a bunch of wolves or a bunch of critters in the forest. We were everything. So we're not just going to do whatever. She can't just blow a whistle and we all come running. She can't run a vacuum and we all go running. We're not just all the same. So there's going to be people that do different things, but they figured out how to move their message to compete with us or to deal with us. And that's where it would be good for us, I think, to have national level guidance. Not necessarily, I'm not going to call it leadership, because there is no one that's going to take the lead and actually call shots, but having strategies that are in place that are successful or fail, that we all know that can work or should work or can be called on. That's the kind of stuff that we'll get more and more power with, and part of that will be anyway, I'm going off of tangents here. So I think that their thing is they've got this one message that they can push whenever they need to. And like I say, they're either the media or they can pay the media to push that one message. So let's say it's, topic of the day, guns are bad, right? In whatever flavor. And we either rally all together, which we rarely do, but most of the time, some of us will challenge that. Some of us will laugh at it. Some of us will say, shrug our shoulders and walk away. Some of us are too busy with life that we never even get to know that attack is coming. And, that's the thing that they're dealing with. So they change their message all the time. They're figuring out where we're strong and where we're weak. And they move their message to obviously go to our weak points. So that's all I was getting at, is that I don't think we're outnumbered. Sure, maybe. Who cares? We're not really outnumbered. We're only outnumbered when you divide us. Whenever we stand together, nobody can stop us, right? So what they do is attempt to constantly divide us, and we just get used to that. When we get strong, like in 12, they tried to divide us, and instead of dividing, we all stood together, backs together, and defended all the bullshit, the new concept of executive actions. So then what do? Start doing all these like ATF moves with the comment periods, and we had immediate success with the 855, and then we had a failure with the bump stock or whatever it was, and then we had two success, and then we had a kind of a jab with the Christmas time one for what was it, bump stocks or pistol braces, I think, and then we had the pistol brace win. So, we've had this like kind of change in tactics at the political side and then through the social side. And we're not we're not losing at all. Like we take blows and we get cuts and we have, gotten broken arms or whatever you want to use the analogies, but we heal and we usually learn from those things. And sometimes we figure out, like they figure out a way to, get us to flinch, and that's annoying. But anyway, I think in the long term, yeah, they've got us with the messaging, but we've got the numbers and we've got the history and the tradition, plus we've got the correctness, right on our side. Then we have the real right, the right of an individual shouldn't have to feel afraid. They should be comfortable not just to defend themselves, but to feel comfortable that their neighbor will come to defend them when the outsider comes in to rally, mess with them. And that's something that they disregard, that the little old lady doesn't have to have a gun when the whole entire block has a gun, or at least has access to a gun. When somebody comes in to mess with that neighborhood and learns that that's not going to happen ever again, it doesn't happen ever again. And that's how you get peace, right? And they don't want to acknowledge that. They want to suggest, they want to set these narratives up. Oh, they want little old ladies or teachers to be armed. People who don't want a gun or don't know how to use a gun and have it taken away from them. That's who they want to have the gun.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, we're going off on rants here.
I believe.
I am, at least.
Yeah, I believe that what we're doing, I feel in the gun community, part of it is, yeah, we have the big ship of the NRA, and that's where even a lot of gun owners start to act as if they speak for everyone, which they don't. I mean, on a good day with their best numbers, they don't account for what 5% of firearms owners in America. But I think the good thing we're doing is having different groups, having people like DC Project, having people like Jake and Mike over at Walk the Talk America, having the Diversity Shoot and Maj and his group and Kevin Dixie and his events. We're coming at them from so many different ways. Anytime they pivot, we're already there. They tried to do the whole safety thing, and I'm like, we beat them on the safety thing because, I mean, almost every one of these groups, if not full of firearms instructors, have a they know the safety rules and they talk about them, and there is nothing Moms Demand had when they were calling themselves a firearms safety group. They had nothing. And it didn't even last long when they tried to do it, and they pivoted again, and they tried to do the women thing with the Moms Demand. Well, Moms at Arms came up and they popped up. A million Moms Against Gun Control popped up. DC Project popped up. So wherever they pivot, we're already there. It's just that many people don't know about us. Even firearms owners don't know about us. And we just have to work at getting better now.
Oh, my computer's really acting weird. So I brought up your post. Is this from today? Yeah, 4 hours ago.
Mm-hmm.
So this one you posted. Let me see. So somebody posted a thing about in 2015, this lady. Somebody tried to rape this lady, and she took the gun away from the rapist, shot him, and then defended herself that way. And then
Mm-hmm.
you said in here, a woman kills a serial killer with his own firearm when he attempts to make her his latest victim. This justifiable self-defense shooting is gun violence, according to anti-gun politicians and the advocates we were just talking about, who are paid people. Their political agenda is more important than lives saved or facts. This is a great point. I don't remember ever. I mean, I'm sure it must have come up in conversations before because there's been so many conversations, but I don't see this one as a justifiable point that, when people talk about whatever it is, whatever the disarmament topic of the
Mm-hmm.
day is, this concept that, well, there's so many points here. The first is that, the person with the firearm is going to have a difference in force or whatever. So when you take that away from the victim, that's all you're doing. Like that's the most you can ever do because you're never going to take it away from the criminal. And the criminal well, it's not in here, but my point is always that you take away that one thing only, like, what is it, St. Teresa, and now what? They're not going to pick up a club or a broken bottle or like
Hmm.
a fork or like a piece of metal. Like anything you take away, they're going to grab another sharp, broken version of something, right?
Yep.
So they're going to ignore that. But then the part where um, that they're standing on this situation as a reasoning for their dumbass position, and that's, I'm glad you posted this, except that you're you, so like as much as anybody, we're
Hmm.
essentially talking to the choir in by force, because on Instagram and stuff, the way that they work, if you do any number of illegal moves according to them, you immediately get put in this circle where you're only gonna be posted to the people who subscribe to you. So there's no outreach. There's no ability to be found by people outside of the people who already know you. So this is good
And
because I'm sure a lot of people follow you, and this concept is good to get out there. But I'm just saying it'd be nicer if this was allowed to get out even more. So I'm going to definitely encourage people to
yeah,
either share this post because that helps Tony and his channel, but the concept of it, that the antis are ignoring these situations, or at least counting these situations as violence, when in reality it's defense. And yes, there's violence in the defense, but it's, there's a definition there. It's for good.
yeah. Because I'm blocked, because I violate community standards, because I have the audacity to put pictures of firearms up. As someone that reviews firearms as part of my podcast and as part of my content, they right now over 2,400 accounts were reached, but only 300 of them are non-followers. And people have shared this particular post 93 times, and still, it's only 2,600 views or plays. So it's just crazy. They limit us. They limit our reach. They limit our voice. Because I find it funny that Moms Demand can post a picture of Dianne Feinstein holding up that AK from the 90s, and that somehow doesn't violate community standards. And I'm like, I have pictures of me holding a firearm. What's the difference? I mean, besides I don't have dementia and I don't look like a basset hound.
And she's not threatening fascism to take away Mr. and Miss America,
Mhm.
take every one of them
If I
away.
could get them all, I would have got them and said, Mr. and Mrs. America, turn them in. And I'm like, wow. Anyway, so it is what it is. I'm not going to throw a pity party. Word got out. A lot of people are sharing it, and I appreciate it. It's crazy. If you read the rest of this story about her, the guy she stopped, he was attempting to sexually assault her. She shot him. He died. And then when the police arrived and went to his car, they found pretty much a kidnapping kit. And then when they went to his home, they found evidence of many, many other, not on attacks on women, but pretty much at least 10 women murdered by this dude. Like he was a
Oh,
legit
yeah.
serial killer. Yeah.
Oh, shit. Well, that kind of confidence and that kind of bullshit can only happen when a psycho is like thinks that they can run free. So this is the kind of thing that if any kind of psycho is thinking like, oh, I'm going to go be a psychopath, run through society, now they know that there's lethal blocks to that stupid ass plan.
Yeah. And I mean, thank goodness somebody, one of the guys asked me today about this. And he was like, yeah, you think this lady owns a gun? I'm like, I think this lady carries a gun when she goes to the bathroom in her home at this point in life, because that is insane.
Well,
That
for a while, right? Like anybody, she's going to probably have a reaction of concern and stress, right? For a while. And then it'll calm down, and then it'll be a memory, and then it'll, never be forgotten, but it'll be something that doesn't come to her mind every morning when she wakes up, is what I'm saying.
oh,
So,
who knows?
you got to let people have timelines too, things, time goes on.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, I'm just hoping people learn from this and understand that you're your own self defender. And
Oh,
it's
there's so
better to,
much. Yeah.
yeah, it's better to start the fight off with your own gun than try to disarm someone and take theirs.
Well, that's true, and that's a crazy exciting or dramatic twist to this one, but the concept of if it would have been any other way, the concept is that she, as the victim, though, had to
Mhm.
commit violence in order, that was not instigated by her or invited by her, but instead, she had to bring it to bear. And then, of course, they're going to use that to suggest that, like you said, uh,
Yeah, this is
they
gun
want
violence,
gun
and it's like,
control advocates dismiss defensive as anything other than the attacker being killed. They do this because self-defense shooting rarely result in the death. Anti-gun advocates combine suicides, domestic violence, and accidentals to prove having a firearm is more dangerous. So yeah, they're well, they do it all the time. So
what do you call it? There's lies, damn lies, and then there's statistics, and they're playing the statistics game. See, this is more dangerous. Well, yeah, you just combined a bunch of stuff, and ignored over 250,000 people defend themselves with a firearm without taking someone's life, or majority of them don't take anyone's life. Doesn't mean the person doesn't get shot. Doesn't mean the person that's defending themselves didn't, you know, fall victim to whatever the attacker had in mind, whatever else, or the worst case that the attacker had in mind. Doing this, one of the podcasts I do, self defense gun stories. I mean, we do 4 stories a week, and I listen to the podcast because I enjoy it. When other people on it, I get to listen to them. But a majority of them, someone sees the firearm, the bad guy runs away, and then they call the police and report it. Second is, yes, they shoot at the attacker. Some of them may hit him, and they find the guy in the hospital or they find the guy limping down the street. Maybe one out of every 2 shows, maybe the person that the defender kills the attacker. But it's rare. It's the rarest occurrence. So yeah, it doesn't happen all the time because most people use a handgun. Handguns are horrible at taking lives compared to rifles and shotguns. Compared to long guns, handguns are horrible or not as effective.
there's a lot to go there. I just wanted to go with another point of view that I like to bring up because I figure a lot of the people who are listening who aren't gun people and who aren't anti-gun people either, right? Just what we always call them, people in the middle.
Hmm.
Um, I like to bring up for those people that there's essentially as many guns as there are cars. So think about how many cars you see on the road and how many people own a car or 2 cars. And then think about how many people own no cars, right? And then think about how many people have a yard full of cars or maybe like a ranch and a garage full of equipment and cars and stuff, right? And motorcycles, we're counting motorcycles or handguns or something. So, there's cars are about equivalent to guns if you start looking at the numbers and the amount of owners, they're about the same. So what Tony's talking about is the amount of times that you need to race to the emergency room to save a life, and then people will say, "Oh, there's all these times when speeding and drunk driving causes deaths." Well, here's the other part of it that everybody ignores when they're having the back and forth discussion. 99.999% of these cars are being driven by people who are driving to work every day and there's never an issue. No cars explode. Nobody's getting run over. People are on the phone. People are yelling at the kids. People are drinking a big gulp or whatever. People are using their phone to navigate. People are using the radio. And we still manage to 99.999% of us get where we're going, even when cars break down, even when there's horrible things that happen, right? Like most people who own guns, same thing as cars, most people that own guns just have them and nothing happens. And that is an overwhelming number. They want us to get caught up in the look at all these deaths. Well, we're
Hmm.
suggesting that 2/3 of these deaths are suicides, and those are suicides. Those are people who have made a decision because there has been barriers to mental health, because there's been a lack of awareness to the idea that if you break your arm or something, you're allowed to talk about it. But if you've got something going on in your head, you're not allowed to talk about it. There's a stigma if you're in a profession where if something going on in your head might prevent you from making a living, which is going to provide for your family, then there's stress that is created there, and there's a lack of awareness or any kind of policy to address any of that. Instead, they demonize one item. And when you look at I look at it this way: if you look at suicide altogether, doctors are going to use a pill. Somebody who uses scissors might use the scissors, the razor, the edge of the scissor. Somebody who works on a high rise might jump off of there, and somebody who uses a firearm might use a firearm, because they all know the effectiveness of that item, and there's some relation to it, right? There's something there. So to suggest that guns are more dangerous is one, bullshit, because all those other things cause suicides also. But the reason that firearms are successful isn't because firearms are more deadly. I'll suggest if that was the case, it would be called gathering and not hunting. There's definitely nothing about a firearm that is, like Tony said, immediately lethal. Suicide is definitely included. So someone who's a novice is not going to be successful. Somebody who understands how they work and is intent is going to be successful. So the same way a doctor is going to know exactly what to do that, right? So is somebody who understands how to turn off things with that tool. So there's a vulgarity in the fact that they would dismiss those deaths, and that their lack of any amount of the millions of dollars that are spent to demonize guns could be used to prevent those deaths. First off, so right off the bat, they're morbid people, but they'll have all these deaths. What was I getting at here? The idea that I don't know where I was going with that one. I spun off on that. But anyway, I don't know where we were going with that one.
Well, I mean, we talked about it before. It's like they never, ever, they will use deaths. They will use deaths as a means to attack a right, but they will never use lives saved to promote it. That's why they stopped with the whole gun safety thing.
I guess in the middle, I was just saying that most of the time guns are not an issue. That they're just owned by people who are safe and responsible with them. They go around with them. They sit in a safe. They spend their entire lives never hurting anybody. And that's the part that gets dismissed. They want to make it seem like there's only one result of guns, and that's violence and death. And they have to look at the razor edge, and they have to dismiss all the rest of the metal. And you're saying, you have a valid point, that as much as there's, the number that they're talking about is, first off, it's suicides. So right off the bat, that's what I got in the tangent there. First off, it's suicides, 2/3 of it. But the third that's left over, a good chunk of that is defensive use and the police doing what they're supposed to do. And then there's crime at the end of all that. And it's a number. It's like 3,000, but it's a number. But anyway, they're going to dismiss that when they'll get scared of that number of how many guns there are, but they're going to dismiss the millions and millions and millions of guns and gun owners that do nothing every single day. And that means they've done nothing every single day for all of time, because there's been that many guns for all of time. Since this country has existed, there's been that many guns. And guess who has guns? Criminals. Every single day. Every single day, criminals have guns. And what do? They choose not to use them because they understand the consequences just like anybody else. Dumbass kids use them. And that's the part where, again, they're standing on the fact that dumbass kids who don't understand consequences and don't care about their own lives or anybody else's, that those kids are running around the only ones doing this stuff with guns. There's no rational, normal people doing anything, to speak of, except for the very drunk or, I don't know, you probably see them more than I do, like the rare cases where, it's probably like lightning striking, where people are weird with them, but vast majority is either suicide or kids being reckless because they don't value life, theirs or anybody else's. And that can be, that's a social issue. That's a societal issue, right? That's a cultural issue. That's something that can be addressed with church. That can be addressed with civics. That can be addressed with mentorship and brotherhood. Like there's a million things that can address that. And all you got to do is get out of people's way and let that happen.
Well, yeah, and that's another thing. If you demonize it is just really funny because, doing what I do, I try not to bring up other, what people call controversial topics, because we're only talking about the Second Amendment, but you can apply it in a different way. How do you tell me their kids need to learn about sex ed because what do you call it when you don't talk about it or do it? Abstinence. You're saying abstinence doesn't work, but when it comes to firearm safety, you want people to abstain from knowing anything about guns, playing video
Oh,
games of guns, having even emojis of guns on social media. Like, but you're still telling me this is very dangerous and people die all the time because they don't know how to safely use it. And
man,
you're a
did
gun
you just
and
come
you're
up with that, or has that been around before?
oh no, I just came up. I mean, I just came up with it. I didn't hear from
Yeah,
anybody.
I have never heard that before, but that is excellent because that not only puts it in their face, but it puts it in their face in a way that they gotta eat crow or whatever. They gotta eat their hat with that one.
Yeah, you just want them to be totally ignorant of something, but then you say, "Oh, no one knows how to use it safely," and then you have the audacity to call yourself a gun safety organization. I'm like, no. As a certified firearms instructor and a range safety officer, like I have paperwork saying I'm a safety guy, and you have to teach them. That's what I'm doing Sunday. CNJFO has their kids shoot, so I'm going to be at that, and we're going to be introducing children to firearms in a safe manner. Talk about responsibility, talk about how to handle them, and the kids are going to have fun, but they're also going to learn this is not a toy. And these people will lose their mind if they knew I was going to be teaching, 10-year-olds how to shoot a gun.
Well, part of it, but also again, like you said, awareness and responsibility and
Hmm.
safe operation and behavior around them. Well, I think that I disagree with you in the respect that I think the safety was intentional. I didn't know it at first. I thought it was just, let's change the words like they like to do. Like you mentioned, they've gone from, different names of their organization whenever they decide it's necessary for usually marketing or whatever, PR. But
Hmm.
when they went to gun safety, it became clear this last year, was it, when the Republicans voted for there was the two things, the two gun controls that the Republicans voted for this last a year ago. That
Hmm.
was the 18 to 20-year-olds no longer have the Second Amendment right, and
Hmm.
everybody was cool with that. Nobody's even complaining about that hardly. Other states are now trying to say that since the feds said it, now we should be able to say it, even though again they have to pick up a gun for uncle, or for the uncle. They can't when they're at home. But anyway, so the 18 to 20-year-olds no longer have their rights, and then
Hmm.
the other one was let's take billions and billions of dollars, something like $40 billion for the next 4 or 10 years, I forget, put it in a big pile and make the states dance. And the top four states or 10, I forget the ratio anymore because it's been a while, but essentially we're going to put this money aside, billions of it, and all these states are going to do things that are anti-gun, and we're going to
Hmm.
decide which states, which like 4 states I think each year did the most anti-gun stuff, and then they win the big anti-gun pool, and then that way the states get a chunk of federal money for doing anti-gun bullshit, which costs everybody money and it stirs us up and it makes us have to defend, right? Well, one of the things that you get credit for and you get paid back for is funding gun safety. Well, guess who decided to rename their shit gun safety just before all this? And are they going to
Hmm.
take Derek from KidSafe? Are they going to take what you just talked about, the CNJFO's event that's been going on annually for a while? No, they're going to take the one that they rebranded a month ago, to gun safety, and well, a year and a half ago, to gun safety, and really what it is gun brainwashing that guns are bad. And I think that was the big plan to pay back Bloomberg through Bloomberg. Just, he's the 14th richest person on the planet. He went to his friends and said, hey, this is a great way for y'all to pay me back for all the money I've spent wasting everybody's time and money here. Like, create this BS little system, and then all of my organizations will do what they do anyway, and I will win because I'm the only one playing on this side. He's literally the house on that side, right? No other organizations exist besides his. So every organization is going to fight, and the top four are the ones that pay Bloomberg back. The rest of them get paid out of the money. So it's a big waste of our taxpayer dollars. But maybe I'm crazy. Maybe I'm just seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, we have to fight, and we have to fight both the government that this dude bought and paid for, and we have to fight Bloomberg and his cronies, all with our money out of our pocket. While, and this is annoying, most people I don't think are aware of the bickering between Second Amendment advocacy organizations. But it's like that silliness is still supporting each other and going, hey, everyone's not going to get everyone. You can appeal to whoever. There's no reason to attack another group unless that group is, not doing what they say they're doing. They're not fighting for the Second Amendment. They're just collecting money.
Your report is saying self-fulfilling prophecy. Deny young people any sort of education about guns, then act surprised when they do dumbass shit with guns because they don't know basic gun safety. And unfortunately, that's literally the results. Even if it isn't their tactic, if you want to suggest that they were that stupid, that they never could have put two and two together, that if you stop telling people how to quit hurting themselves, people are going to start hurting themselves. But yeah, that's again something that should be posters, right? How many people do we have in marketing? How often are we told that the new blah 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 from Illinois, even though they attacked gun owners and the industry, blah blah blah, we should buy their blah blah blah? Well,
Yep.
Well, we have some marketing efforts towards this, and what Tony just said about how they will suggest that abstinence is ridiculous and it's laughed at, that abstinence is a joke. Be abstinent about guns. Like, come on, that couldn't be a better meme. Especially we have national level organizations that are meme experts. And then I think your one from before, from the Instagram post that about that they're standing on those deaths.
Yeah, I mean, they never promote or talk about self-defense because it happens in numbers way larger. Much, much larger. I was looking it up because I wanted to know how many car accidents happen in America a year. Because, like you said, we have as many guns as we have as many cars as we have firearms. Well, there are over 5 million car accidents that cause property damage every year in America. And there are about the same number of deaths as they are with firearms. So it's about 35,000 fatal car accidents in America. Now, again, it says fatal car accidents. I don't know how many people that means dying. You know what I mean? Because multiple people can pass away in an accident.
Yeah, a car or crash with 8 people, and then versus one with 1, right?
Mm-hmm. So they were like another 1.5 million crashes result in injuries, and 3.6 million cause property damage. So that's a total of over 5.2 million collisions happen over the course of a single year in America. Now, when I tell people, again, people defend themselves anywhere between 250,000 and 2.5 million times a year in this country. They somehow go, that's crazy. There's no way people defend themselves 2.5 million times. Well, there's twice that many number of car accidents. Everybody that drives a car to work or even rides a public road has seen a car accident, probably multiple times a week. But somehow those very same people can't believe that in a country of over 300 million people with just as many firearms, that half as many people can't defend themselves. That it's like, yes, it is possible that 2.5 million people went, I got a gun, get out of my house, and the guy took off running. Not that they shot anyone, not that they even called the police about it. Get off my lawn or get out of my car. I will shoot you, and the guy takes off running. Yeah, that's a self-defense. That's a self-defense using a firearm. That's defending your property and your home. Or you can just go by the police reports, because I think that's where the smaller number of 250,000 come from. Those are actual police reports filled out. It says, yeah, I pulled the gun out and the guy got off my porch. But I wanted to report it because he's been in the neighborhood all day.
It takes a certain level before somebody's going to call the police. So yeah, that's going to have like a much smaller, and then you could say more, or like less abused, or like less, I don't know, whatever you want to say, like number, but that's disputable number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you have it on paper. Yeah. But I've used a firearm in self-defense, and I did not involve the authorities at all. The threat went away, and I went the other direction.
just to throw a point of view on it, I think that again, the people that are anti, and I don't know, maybe the people in the middle, and perhaps even gun owners, but people tend to dramatize. Is that the right word? Like they think of movies and TV shows that are,
Hmm.
at top level plus, number 11 on a 1 to 10 scale of actual action and suspense and everything. Half the time, or some number of times, I'm sure that someone in a parking lot who's carrying a firearm gets, they're already aware, they're already to some level concerned, so that they've armed themselves. They're aware of the idea that other people could be bad. So now they're walking in a heightened sense of awareness through a parking lot, and somebody comes up to them in a weird way because they're drunk or they're just not paying attention to the way society is or whatever, and that person says, "Hey, get away from me," and then that person does, right? So crisis averted. If someone were to
Hmm.
ask the two of them what happened, somebody would say, well, the one guy would say, "Oh, I walked up to somebody and they said to get away," and then the other person would say, "I had a gun and I defended myself." Like
Hmm.
or it would say, "I defended myself against a potential attacker." Well, did you have a gun? Yes. Well, now that gets put into a category. Was there a gun involved? No. Was it there present? Yes. Like, was there actually an attacker? No. But did that person perceive it? Yeah. And they're allowed to, right? There's no perception. There's no like moral value there. Like if you're smaller or just vulnerable, whatever reason, right? You're allowed to feel vulnerable and have the perception that you're under attack and have the perception that you defeated that attack through whatever, verbal or brandishing. But in reality, that person was maybe coming up because they wanted to borrow a buck or they were trying to get on a bus, and the thing is like, anyway, so you know what I'm saying? Like there's
Yeah.
different points of view. There's different levels. Now, sure as hell, there's probably times when somebody's like, "Oh, I'm going to go beat up this person," and then the person says, "Get out of here," and they brandish. And yeah, that was a potential bad news situation. And then potentially, I like to think that bad guy has to at least think to themselves, what's this going to happen again? What's the next person just going to shoot me and then say, "Get off of me"? Like, I was lucky this time. Maybe I'll quit doing this. Maybe I will start giving blood. You can make like $1,000 a month giving blood. So, there's lots of ways to make money. And, it's just, if it's easier to go push people around and take their money, like if people are like, "Oh, I'd rather just give away my money. I carry $20 or $40 extra just to give the person who's trying to steal." Like, what do you expect? People are going to do whatever's easier for them. If you're making it completely, what do you call that? Like a target of opportunity of all the citizens, and the citizens just go, "Okay." I mean, but it's different in the Old West, right? Like there would be different in a town where there was resistance to that.
They will
Anyway,
be. Yeah,
yeah. So
I've been trying to look this up. I've been trying to look this particular case up as we're talking
the
Massachusetts versus.
Massachusetts and Donald. So G23 brings up a question. We finally get to real questions. Massachusetts versus Donald case. You think it'll go anywhere? So you were able to look it up?
No, I mean, as we're talking, I'm trying to find it and I can't find like a
Yes.
breakdown
Guns
of
and
what it
Gadgets.
is.
Gungeons Gadgets talked about it. When an argument appears to be based on Bruin, reconstructing it, defense argued that there's no text history or tradition, people barred from defensive arms on one's. Oh, it was somebody that was in Massachusetts, um, charged for illegally packing in Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and the judge said he was good to go because Bruin.
Was he? Did he have a criminal record?
I'm reading off over the summary on Reddit, so
Yeah, I was
yeah,
trying to do that while we were having a conversation, and it proved impossible for me.
yeah, it's too complicated. I haven't heard of it, so nobody's broken it down for me, so I haven't heard of it. But um, so no, I don't have any thoughts on it.
Yeah, sorry. Look, I go with the Bruin thing only because that's the latest Supreme Court decision on it. Because I'm 100% pro 2A, even to the point that some people do not like my stance of if you're not in prison, if you've done your time, you should have all your rights back. And if you're that much of a problem, you should not come out. I mean, that's just the way I feel. So I hope that maybe applies to how you see this case.
Moving on to your report says, do they break out how many gun deaths were caused by government officials, police, and military agencies that are armed? Be interested to know those numbers as it applies to the citizens as well as others around the world.
Well, what I've saw were defensive gun uses brought in, and I think it's like 3% of firearms related deaths. But that's also including police shootings in that number, civilian and police, and security guards or whatever. But it's all that justifiable homicide numbers, and it's in the single digits. Because again, most people use a handgun, and handguns are effective, but only pretty much close or with shot placement. Like shooting someone in the torso with a 9mm handgun may or may not stop them, but shooting someone in the chest with double lock buck has a better chance of stopping them.
Jeff asked a question here in a bit. Let's compare the stuff under the ATF. Where did I have it? Let's compare the stuff under the purview of the ATF, which kills more alcohol, tobacco, or firearms. We did a thing one time with Wheeled and Well Armed had put together some data, and I put that into a chart because that's a good point. That I'm trying to remember the numbers now as I look for it here. Where did I have it under ATF? But I'll find it here. But it was something like 500,000 for cigarettes, 50,000 for tobacco, and depending on how you want to look at it, if you count suicides, 30,000. But if you don't count suicides, I don't know. It depends on if you want to count suicides or not as a firearms thing. Here we go. 500,000 for tobacco, 100,000 for alcohol, and 11,000 for firearms. I took suicides out of there because suicides are
not a gun problem.
Yeah, what is ATF going to do about suicides? But they could potentially have something to do with, I don't know, nothing to do with, because they don't. If the ATF could do anything about firearms, then they would already done it, right? They can't do shit about tobacco, and they can't do shit about alcohol. All they can do is tax things, and essentially tax things, right? Make labels.
Yeah, that's what they do.
Labeling requirements. So yeah, they're definitely not putting their time into their purview or whatever, their area of operations at all proportionally, and they're definitely being used as a gun tool, or a tool against gun owners, right?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Coming from where I come from, again, rural Virginia, where making moonshine is a thing. It's hilarious that I was reading this, and this is years ago, and I'm talking in the 90s when I had a subscription to Maxim magazine. And they did a story on the ATF trying to break up a illegal moonshine ring in Western Virginia. And the fact that they spent, because I'm trying to remember just numbers from an article. I think it was like $25 million in like a couple of years trying to shut down this ring for pretty much an estimated $5 million in taxes that these people were supposedly getting away with when they talked about how big the ring was and how much alcohol they were estimated at selling and moving. And it's like, that's $5 million in taxes. You spent $25 million to try to stop people from getting away with not paying $5 million in taxes. And we're unsuccessful. Because no matter what you try to do in that area where there are so few people and everyone knows each other, is get a bunch of Fed boys to show up and infiltrate. And the running joke was when they showed up, you know, they tried to look like good old boys. And you have to understand, many of these people are in, you know, from the Richmond or DC area because you're in Virginia, right? So ATF is in DC. So they all got pickup trucks because that's what rednecks and country people drive. And they drove down. Well, they all have new pickup trucks. It looked like they just drove off a lot. You're running around with people with 20 and 30-year-old trucks, and everybody knows everybody's truck by sight. And they were like, look at those guys. Who are those guys in brand new Carhartts with brand new friggin' pickups? Like, it was just a running joke. And then they try to go into local bars and local hangouts and get people to, you know, tell them where they could get some moonshine. And they were people just directing these people all over the county for no reason in wild goose chases. So they spent 2 years absolutely doing nothing and getting no arrest. It's hilarious. So yeah, when they try to
Except for
work
the
on
tax money, yeah.
so and by the way, what are you gonna do? Take pictures of yourself destroying a steel? Like you could put a table full of freaking BB guns and 80% lowers and you know talk about ghost guns and all of a sudden you look like this great hero on the national news. Oh, you're just going to look like your grandfather busting up a steel. You know, you're just going to look like a prohibitionist,
Or
and no one
busting
cares.
into a bucket of beer, whatever they call it, barrel of beer.
Yeah, it's like you just look like some old timey, some old timey thing. Oh, look, they're remaking the Untouchables. What is this?
Or like somebody burning books, literally.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, and everybody drinks alcohol. Hard to villainize it. Hard to villainize something everyone enjoyed. You tried it once, and it was really unsuccessful. All you did was end
Well,
up funding the mob.
and it showed that the state has no justification, or what I think that's the right word, for more, you know, implement whatever, pushing morality on people,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't work. Like even if everyone said, yeah, you know what, the government should tell us what's right and wrong, you know, make us do stuff. They just don't do it. They didn't do it well, but they also don't have that right, and no one wants to give them that right.
Exactly.
Well, I
And the
shouldn't say no one.
firearms,
Very few people want
very
to.
few. Oh, because I've had a discussion back when I used to be in the gym all the time lifting, and one of the guys, yeah, it should be illegal, and I'm like, you know, they've done that already, right? Made alcohol illegal. Well, no one should drink. I think that should be up to the people whether they drink, not you. Now get off the squat machine. But yeah, we've had that discussion with people, and I'm like, it's amazing the number of people that want the government to tell them what to do, and I'm like, you don't need the government. You just dictate your own morality, bro. If you don't want to drink alcohol, don't drink alcohol. If you don't want your kids to drink, don't allow alcohol in the home. Nobody says your kids won't drink outside the home, but I grew up with two parents that didn't drink alcohol. I didn't drink alcohol either, but they weren't fanatic about it. They just, neither one of them liked it. So when I tasted it for the first time, it pretty much, you know, remember the first taste of beer as a kid?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh my God, how do you people drink that? Of course, that was the same reaction I had to coffee too.
I was gonna say coffee and some other stuff. You gotta, it's, you know, and then some people like, you know, licorice or some things people are just never gonna get into. But I think some of it is, I think it was my grandparents' parents were like really bad alcoholics, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
So there was just not going to be any alcohol in the house because you know, they weren't going to follow that. They didn't want to do that. So, you know, I don't know if it was, you know, it wasn't necessarily a rule. They might have, you know, drank when necessary, like when somebody was doing something or when it was appropriate. I guess not necessary, but appropriate, right? But it wasn't like daily or anything.
Oh, so our beloved governor in New Jersey, the horseshoe jackass, just signed more legislation for gun trafficking. If you illegally sell guns, you can personally face criminal penalties for violent crimes committed using those guns. Those same criminal penalties can even apply to out-of-state gun dealers. You're an idiot. Oh, it passed with unanimous bipartisan support. This is the first anti-gun trafficking law of its kind in the country. You're morons. One, it was already illegal to illegally sell firearms. And when you caught people, they gave them deals and they didn't go to jail.
And then when you catch somebody and you plead that away, and then they don't go to jail, and then are they encouraged to do it again? And then they do it again, and you get another arrest for it, and then the same person could potentially be responsible for more than one instance that they're using, right, as a total. Like, look, there's 30,000 times. Oh, it's 10,000 people.
No. Well, that's what. If you're not involved, if you're one of the peanut heads that sit around and listen to the guy, because I'm sure he put this out in a tweet, because again, Horseshoe Jackass has a Twitter account, and all of the people, oh, thank you, Governor, for keeping us safe. I'm like, what planet do you live on that you don't understand how laws work? They don't arrest. They arrest these people, and they either allow them to plea out or they make some kind of deal, and they walk free when they give up who the gang contact is or who the higher up is that they're purchasing these firearms for. These people don't stay in prison. And it's not as if the guy brings up one handgun and he sells it to his cousin. No, you're talking about a guy that brings in 30 handguns and they sell them to known gangs. They get handguns from down south, some buy them legally, some steal them, whatever, and they know they get more money in Jersey than they do in Florida for that particular firearm. It's just ridiculous. It's just another way to try to intimidate people. Governor Murphy really wants to run for president. He's going to use New Jersey's governorship as his stepping stone. He wants to be known as the anti-gun, gun safety candidate, whatever he calls it. And all of this is a push by him. And people buy into it. So I'm saying this right now. If you see a politician from New Jersey that used to be governor here, don't vote for him. Regardless of party, do not vote for anyone who was ever new governor of New Jersey.
I don't know. I think that people who are governors of states back east, have they ever been a president? Like, they think they're just, oh, they have? Okay.
Yes. I mean, where are we going to start, and what do you call back east? Understand, we had like 4 presidents.
The states with all the cities, because I'm just thinking people who govern over states with a bunch of cities, or just people that are piled on top of each other like a city. It's just different than farms, because everybody in a farm is out doing their own thing. There's just a different type of representative. Hey, I'll leave you alone. You vote for me. I'll leave you alone. The other ones are like, hey, you vote for me, and I'll make sure you don't have to. Everything's taken care of for you. But we're at an hour, so let me move on. Let's do Plain Nuts, who asked this question a while back. Do you guys have any opinions on holsters that convert between inside the waistband and outside the waistband? I have zero carry experience, and I'm looking for ways to cut down on the size of a future holster drawer. So there's a couple of points there. So for somebody who hasn't had a lot of experience carrying, how do you answer? Let me ask real quick first. How often have you heard this question? Do you know?
I haven't heard this particular question, but I actually met a company that does this at the Great American Outdoor Show, and I'm going to get one of their holsters in. I think I'm not even going to suggest one of them because I don't think they make good holsters, so I won't even bring their name up. But understand, when you do something like this, you're what's the word? You're looking at a compromise. It's much like what's that thing? A Leatherman or a multi-tool. When you get something, it's a compromise. I'm looking at the video I actually did with the company. Now I'm trying to find out the name. All right, Tac Rig, TACRIG, Tac Rig, and they make one holster, or they make a holster system. So you can get inside, outside the waistband. You can even get things for drop leg. So you buy the entire system, you have everything. And then if you want to buy one for, let's say you have a Glock 17, you can buy the Glock 17 attachment. And then you buy a SIG 226. You don't have to buy a whole new system. You can just buy the holster part for the SIG 226. So I'm going to look into this myself because I want to see if I can switch between different firearms with this. But that's the one I know you can switch out.
Right on. I don't know if I've got holster advice other than it's like shoes or gloves or underwear or even like a sweatshirt or something. Like even I think like a sweatshirt, right? You're gonna like a certain sweatshirt for when it's raining and it's not that hot out, and then there's another sweatshirt when it's below zero and you want as many layers as possible, and then you're going to be wearing that over layers, so you want that real baggy sweatshirt, and then there's another
Okay.
sweatshirt that you want for something else. Holsters, I don't think anybody's best off by having a best holster, because I just don't think that's the case. Some people are going to be crotchety and set in their ways and they're going to have one, but I think you enjoy your life more if you're able to deal with a couple of different options. And just, again, if you're going to go bike riding or if you're going to go hiking, or then if you're going to go sit in an auditorium, those were probably different holsters. Maybe if you're going to sit in a canoe, it might be a different holster than sitting in a bus.
Mm-hmm.
So
I agree.
don't be afraid of getting a couple of different holsters, and don't be afraid, because you can always sell a holster. And if you don't want to sell it, 5 minutes from now, 5 years from now, 5 days from now, you're going to find a friend who's like, blah, blah, blah holster. And you can go, here, boom,
Yep.
there's a holster. So, it's not the worst thing. There's worse things than having a drawer of holsters. And you can always sell them. I've actually been surprised that I've had holsters since I was a little kid that sold, and maybe because people wanted
Mm-hmm.
vintage stuff. I've had stuff that's Glock stuff. You would think, why would anybody want Glock stuff? You can go buy brand new. Probably because it's cheaper. They bought it for Halloween. Anybody's going to be buying anything for a minute from
Mm-hmm.
now if it's cheap or if it looks cool or something, or if it looks unique. So you're not going to lose the whole value if you end
Yeah.
up going through some holsters.
I just saw this place. I mean, these guys, and there's no reason to go broke, but you can buy holsters between 20 and $80. And it's just one of those things, man. You're just going to have to go through some of them because sometimes you get what you pay for. Sometimes you don't get an effective holster, but just make sure the thing covers your trigger guard and it secures, to your pants. You don't want the thing falling down your pants or the clips popping off or something like that. Uh, it's just going to have to be a thing. I don't want to name any brand, but you can watch a few videos, write some stuff down, and don't go too expensive with a holster. And understand the more things you put on the holster, the harder it is to hide. I'm looking at a lot of these guys, they got the sidecar on it with the extra mag and all that stuff. And I'm like, yo, bro, chill out. I mean, you're just putting like a gun. I see a lot of the guys claim to carry some stuff that I don't believe they carry every day. I don't believe there are a lot of people who carry concealed a full size duty pistol that also has a white light on it, a red dot, and they have an extra mag all stuffed in their pants all day. As someone that carried a 1911, I'll tell you right now, that thing gets heavy and it feels like you're carrying a baby on your hip. So keep some stuff reasonable. There's nothing wrong with getting a couple of different kind of holsters because, again, the more specific use, the better it'll probably fit. If you get something that does both, it probably won't fit well doing either. It'll just be acceptable. But if you have a dedicated inside the waistband holster, it'll probably be a lot more comfortable than one that goes both ways. That's why I want to check this company out to see if it's comfortable. Because right now I'm wearing one that's pretty comfortable, but I also have my Fat Operator holster from JX Tactical that goes a little deeper for my Glock 19 because it's a fat guy, because of the shorter barrel of a Glock. If it's higher in your pants, it feels like it'll shoot the gun out. I've actually had my firearm come out of, and I had to catch it walking up steps. So you're going to have to do a little investigative stuff, but there's no reason to spend a whole bunch of money on a holster. But you can get a couple of good ones. Oh, and I was trying to think of East Coast presidents that were governors. Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson was from Jersey, and he became president.
Oh, okay.
And Calvin Coolidge was from Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
And both Roosevelts were from New York. And then we're talking modern times. I didn't go back too far because it wasn't a problem back then.
So a couple of things, when you're talking, modern materials, Kydex, for example, or injection molded, it kind of depends on the company and how much they want to put into it, how they're making them. But either way, you can have thicknesses of that. So a thinner thickness is going to wear out faster, and it's going to conform or squish to the gun and you a bit different. So if you're a competitive shooter and you're buying this holster for whatever, right, some competitive use, let's just say open-ended, because you're not buying a competition holster necessarily to carry, but there are some that, could do both kind of roles. So if you're buying something that's designed to be reholstered for a long time and to be in the right position for consistency for a competition shooter, or in an angle or a cant or something that's maybe more competition, I think that's something that, like Tony's saying, if you get something that's more on that end of the spectrum, now it's going to be uncomfortable as shit jabbing that into you. So usually the stuff that's inside the waistband is going to be a lot thinner on the spectrum. And then again, that's going to wear out faster. It's going to be more flippy floppy as an outside the waistband, not as rigid. So some people are going to complain about that in a competition or even just training situation. So, again, there's different, I don't know, you're going to find people that will only carry one gun. I don't know if I've ever asked you, are you the type that you like to carry one gun at a time? Like I carry my this or I carry my that and I train with it and I dry fire, or do you pick up whatever and carry it that day?
No, one gun. It has to be in the same spot. I have to be used to drawing it. I had a couple. One was my 22, only because before I found something that could, held up by sweatpants. I had the SR-22, which is a lightweight semi-automatic 22 from Ruger. And I had a holster that I could use, and the whole thing wouldn't pull my pants down, but you still have a semi-auto 22 at the end of the day. So when I got the particular holsters I have, I was able to carry using a belt and jeans, and it's a heck of a lot better. The gun doesn't move around. And now that I'm shooting competition with it, and I've passed their safety, their requirements at this particular range for drawing from inside the waistband, they allow me to do that in competition. So I get to practice, I get to dry fire at home, and I get to practice on the timer. So it's pretty cool. You got to get used to it. You can't just pretend I'm going to be good at this, even if you've never practiced or you very rarely practice. Getting a master grip on this thing, getting it out, and then being able to hit a target. You can practice drawing at home. You can practice the grip at home. You can practice dry firing at your light switch. But you need to put it all together somewhere under a stressor. And one of the ways to do that is in competition with other people watching and a clock, and a timer. You're a little, okay, it's not the same as being shot at, but at least you know what you can do and how you perform. And don't just do it once. Like try to show up like I do this particular thing every weekend on a Friday. I try to get there every Friday. So once a week, I'm doing this for real.
You went into a bunch of things there. I don't disagree. There's a lot to be gained from the experience of competition shooting that applies to everything else. But as far as the one carry gun or multiple carry guns, there's the other side of it where people will just decide, oh, I'm wearing this pants today. I'm wearing this, setup, or I'm going this place or whatever. So there's that, and because of that, that means there's going to be different holsters, right? So the person who
Definitely.
carries the same thing every day probably figures out whatever holster they like, and then boom, they zeroed in on it. They have maybe another holster for the other thing they do, or for some
Mhm.
other situation. But then that person that's into carrying in different ways, they're probably the same person that's got a big closet full of clothes, and they're going to have that drawer of holsters, right? So maybe the
Yeah.
question implies you're looking for that one, but I'll just throw that out there that some holsters are made to lean in the direction like, hey, I know people are going to be shopping for multiple holsters. I'm going to make sure they've got a new one here. And I'm going to make sure they got a new one next year and next year. Does it need to exist? Is it better? Whatever. It's another holster though. You can buy it. You know, I think,
Oh,
and then you're
I
allowed to buy
agree.
it. You're allowed to do that. I mean, you're allowed to just buy a new holster. It's
I
so
agree with you that some people look. I wear the same thing all the time. So, and I mean, sometimes you ask me questions, and they're going to have to be from my perspective at times. And this is one of them. I wear the same thing so I can cover up my firearm. Uh, if I wear dress clothes, would I wear the same firearm? Well, yeah, because I'm built the way I'm built. I can conceal a full size firearm. Other people might not be able to, and they dress more stylish than I do. Skinny jeans is a thing now, or a tighter cut. What do you call it? A slimmer cut to your jacket or blazer or something like that is now popular. Well, I know it's hard to believe, but I'm not a slave to fashion. You've seen how I dress, trust me. Um, but I'll wear a polo shirt, jeans, slacks, that kind of thing. I can still wear the same thing I always wear. But yeah, if you're changing up a lot, but there's proficiency you have to achieve, I think. And a lot of people assume they're better than they are, and they don't train a lot with their gun rotation. At least I don't see a lot of dudes doing that. And it's like, yeah, wear your holster, wear it like you're gonna wear it. Now practice drawing from it. Like, how much time do you put in if you have 5 guns that you rotate through? Like, you can get the gross motor skills down of how to do it, but how often do you do it? Because getting it out is
well,
one thing. Being
that's
able
like
to put it on
saying
target's another.
all you got to do is take out the guitar, put it on your knee, start strumming on it, and you're playing guitar. Like that's all you got to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, that's all you got to do. And it's like,
There might be a little bit more to it, but as far as I understand it, that's all you got to do. Like, and if you've
it's
never
like,
done it before, if you don't practice, then you don't see your flaws. You don't see your whatever. How they
mhm.
say amateurs practice until they can do it once, and professionals practice until they don't do it wrong,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
or something to that effect. So that's the thing. Most people are going to go to the range and they're going to shoot, and if they can achieve a couple of bullseyes in a row on a box of ammo, yep,
yep.
put it away. Maybe they're going hunting, so they go to a knee and do it again. Okay, now
Hmm.
I'm good to go. I can shoot in austere positions. But I've seen people, well, you know what I mean? Like you see somebody who's really into hunting and they're going to go out and they're going to lean on a tree. They're going to go underneath a bush. They're going to do whatever. They're going to take these weird shots. They're going to make sure their gun can do it. They're going to make sure they can do it. They're going to make sure they understand that windage when their gun's at a, not perfect situation or whatever. They're going to go out shooting in the rain. They're going to go out shooting when it's super hot out, right? Not when it's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's a good day. Let's go shoot.
Amateurs practice till they get it right. Professional practice until they can't get it wrong.
There you go.
And really, because sometimes when you talk about stuff like this, people feel you're giving them no. People feel you're giving them unrealistic expectations. But I'm like, if you have a Glock 19 that you carry with something, but then the next gun you carry because you're wearing different clothes is something with a different grip angle, like let's go with Sig P365. You should, it shouldn't be that much of a difference, but you still have to be aware that there's a difference in grip angle. There's a difference to the size of the firearm itself. That how much of your hand gets wrapped around that grip, and how you shoot it, and how much finger is actually on the trigger. Because, and I'll just talk from my own personal experience. Going from my carry gun, which is a Glock 19 stock Gen 1 Glock 19, I went to Kevin Dixie's Train and Learn, and a friend of mine allowed me to use his. He brought an extra Glock 19 for me to use. Well, his Glock 19, mine had like stock sights and a high vis front sight, stock rear sight. His had a big dot, XS big dot on it. He also had a different trigger on it. So the first time I'm shooting this gun, I'm drawing out of my holster. It's still a Glock 19, but the sight picture was totally different, and the trigger was different, and the grips were different because he had a Gen 3 or Gen 4, so it had finger grooves and all that stuff I had to get used to in my first draw in a class on a timer. There's a difference. And if you carry more than one gun or have a rotation, you need to know the differences in your gun and how to shoot it well. Oh, God, add a man bun? I didn't even get the man bun part. No, and no. No, and no. Just because I carry a CZ75 does not mean I'm going to wear skinny jeans and grow out a man bun or even do a patch with me doing that.
What I was to say, what if you get a hat and the hat just has a man bun on it?
A man bun attached.
So sidecars, playing that to follow up, said sidecars on the same side as a pistol don't make sense to me. The ergonomics don't make sense when reloading, for sure. But
Yeah.
what I think that became popular is people that are cross-drawn for, I would say horse, but imagine motorcycles maybe, or ATVs, and I guess cars. So it's a little bit different there if you're cross-drawing because you got your gun over on the other side. So now your magazine is over there where you need it, and your gun is in your other hand, right? But that's cross-draw. And then when you move that over and you're humping on it with appendix carry, same thing. Now it's just in your midline, and it makes a lot of sense having your hands go down to midline all the time. But that's not for everybody, obviously, and that's a lot of weight up front. It's essentially like you're carrying a big. What was that thing called back in the day that they'd put in front of them? I don't even know who that was. The people with the kilts, maybe. Somebody wore some kind of thing that was a big metal thing in front of their nuts. So that would
cod piece.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, cod piece. Yeah.
By the time you have a gun and a mag and the holster that's holding it all together, that seems like a lot of stuff to be carrying up front. I used to carry my gut and my nuts up there, so I'm putting other stuff on the sides.
Yeah, I saw it. Now, I have a holster with that because someone gave it to me. And this is my fault because I didn't practice with it since then. But it's like all that sidecar stuff, and it's on my concealment holster. And I'm doing it again on the clock for the first time. It was a monkey humping a bowling ball. It was not a pretty thing. Me trying to get this thing out of the sidecar to do a reload on the clock during pretty much an outlaw match. It just looked really slow, and I was a lot quicker going in my pocket and just pulling out a magazine because that's what I was used to. But I shoot these competitions to improve my skill set, not win a division, because I'm incapable of it. I'm using a concealed carry rig, my concealed carry gun, to get better at this and have fun, and I'm doing that. A lot of these guys have competition rigs, competition holsters. Their magazines are around their side. Some of them have magnets, some of them have pouches, but all of them are set up to run a competition. I'm not. I'm set up to shoot my firearm from concealment and reload from concealment too.
That's interesting. We never really, at least I don't remember ever chatting about that concept that, I don't do a ton of competitions, but I have in the past done some. And at least out here in Arizona and the places, I guess Vegas. I mean, it's not like I've traveled far to go to competitions or anything. But when I've experienced it, there's been that crossover, I guess is the way to say it, between the people that are hardcore competition, people that are either getting into it or just, but here's another thing to do, kind of the vacationer or the tourist. And then the people that are competition people, like you're kind of not competition, the people that are more testing their training, testing their gear, just testing their competency, like the practical, I guess. So I mean, it depends on the place and maybe the circumstances. There might be some ranges where some people don't mix as well, but in my experience, there's been a pretty decent mix, and that's when I was going to say you get like that crossing of the groups where these different types of shooters all come together. And sure, some of them are trying to win, but others are just testing their gear. But they're all chatting to each other when they're reloading magazines and when they're not actually shooting. Only one person shoots at a time in an indoor match, usually, maybe two, right? But so there's a lot of time you're chatting and BSing, and that's an opportunity for people to, who aren't political to hear political stuff. The people that aren't paying attention to what's new in their gear, are learning about new gear. People are learning about tactics. People are getting some coaching from each other. That's something that we don't bring up very much, and it's just because it doesn't happen. It happens like 10 people on a Wednesday here and there.
Yeah, we've grown, and they've grown exponentially since I started with them. But I don't, I don't think it's because I was with them. I think it just happened like that. November of last year was the first time I shot with this particular group of people. I found out about them through CNJFO. One of my guys was like, we have a competition like every Friday at this age. And I'm like, well, how much is it? And they're like, $10 if you're not a member. Oh, well, heck yeah. So I grabbed the Morosco 5 magazines and I went up. And that's how I got involved. And that's why I've been talking about it on shows to try to get other people involved. And I'll tell you right now, the urge to buy equipment so I can be competitive is there. When you see how quickly these guys can draw from an outside the waistband holster on a dedicated belt with a dedicated holster for competition, heck yeah. And when you see how quick their reloads go because their magazines are right there on their belt line. But then I'm thinking, one, that belt costs like, $100 or more just for the outer belt. Then you got to get this and this and this. And by the end of the day, you spend $500 or more on your rig. That's not what I'm doing here. And that's cool if you do it and you want to become involved on that level. But my level is I want to be able to operate under a stressor with what I actually carry and how I carry it. And I'm having a great time. I'm meeting some people. We're learning, you definitely learn. The guys let me shoot their stuff. They'll let me check out, how does this red dot work? How does it do? Let me dry fire this particular firearm they have or check it out. Everybody's really cool, and there is a lot to learn. There's friends to make. I've gotten some guys that come out to the diversity shoots and help coach my people, that come there. So it's just another level of what do you call it? Fellowship. It's just more fellowship in the firearms community. And don't be intimidated by it at all. You're not going to show, this ain't a Disney movie. You ain't going to show up and win the championship. But you can definitely show up and have a great time.
But every once in a while people do. I mean, it does happen. Some people are naturally gifted. You don't even know until you go shoot with other people. And then they're like, who did you train with? Or how did you come up with this technique? And they're just like, the person is just like, I'm just shooting. And
it could happen.
Fast reflexes. Maybe they're a pilot or, they do something like do something in the back of a restaurant or something where they're constantly catching something and they just turn out to be perfect training for quick draw or something.
Yeah, I'm just saying, don't depend on that. Don't depend on that.
What if you're minding your business at a gun shop and you get bit by a radioactive 9mm, and all of a sudden you can shoot like Deadpool or something?
Yeah, all of a sudden, you're Jerry Nicholas. You're smoking Jerry at the range. Hey, old man, the time is now. The time is now, old man.
So we got one question that came in from the real hotline, so we'll answer that one last, but Plain Nut follows up with what we're talking about here. I'm hesitant to do some of these action and steel leagues because that equipment I see them with, I may try it with one of the stuff I already have to see how it goes. When you say equipment, you mean like all the holsters and stuff Tony's talking about? Yeah, they'll almost always encourage you to participate with whatever you got, and then like Tony just said, you can do pretty good. You're just not going to win blah blah blah, but you can have as much fun. The real fun is shooting those interesting targets and, like, under the stress and everything. So you can do all that, 90% of it, right?
Oh yeah, you can do all. I mean, I did. I finally shot a still challenge. We ended up calling it off before the end of the day. I was getting my butt kicked. I was having fun, but I was getting my butt kicked, and it wasn't on the draw. It was transitioning between targets because you have 5 targets to shoot. The timer goes off, beep, and you have 5 still targets. And then they have a red target that you shoot last, or 4 still targets. The 5th target is a red target that turns the timer off. I'm pulling my thing and I'm punching out, and it's like ping, 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 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These guys are going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm like, holy crap. and that is with their competition guns that have the trigger that's got the red dot, but they've done this a lot. This is my first time transitioning, shooting as quickly as possible. Outside of the USPSA thing that I was doing. And again, this is once a month, and I was 4 months in, so I'd done the USPSA thing 4 times. It's different. It's fun. Do it. Unless they're a bunch of snobs that don't want their organization to grow, they're going to encourage you to come out with whatever you have. The only time I've actually heard of snobby people doing that is the people that shoot clays and they have their $20,000 over and unders. And you have the audacity to come out with your 18-inch Mossberg. Yes, they're going to look aghast at you and get the vapors.
But yeah, you're going to go to a range where they're not going to let you shoot without, you must have this fancy gun. That's going to be a private range anyway. So unless you're getting invited by somebody, or you like, and if you paid to be in a range like that, I'll bet you they're like, going to let you. Well, whatever. I think it's rare.
Yeah, the only snootiness that I saw, and it wasn't even snootiness, it was just a requirement. They wanted you to have a barrel length of at least 24 inches on your shotgun.
Oh, see, that's kind of annoying because there's just not that many guns with a 24-inch barrel length. So
I think they just wanted you to have a shotgun either designed for upland or designed for clay shooting, not a self-defense shotgun.
Yeah. So then the question that came in from the website, I own a Browning Lightning over and under trap gun pre-1965. These are selling for $1,800. But my stock has been cut and a piece added to it to make the cheek rest a bit higher. How much has this devalued it? So my answer is usually, if it's possible, if it's not serialized or something, find a stock and just put a new stock on it so that it has the original stock, and then keep the one that you've got included with it if you want, unless it was like your dad's or something, like keep it as a memento. But just, have your one that you've modified. Say, hey, if you want a modified one, here's the one I did. And then just sell it with the original stock, unless that's prohibitively expensive, especially with the internet. Wouldn't be surprised if you find a stock, even for an expensive gun, for a reasonable cost.
Yeah, it might be easier to find a stock than it is a barrel. I'll tell you that. I was trying to find a barrel for a Winchester 1300. Just was not possible. Like, no one had them. Yeah, I agree with you. If it devalues it, it devalues it. But so, understand, you've used this firearm. It's from 1965. It's pre-65. You've gotten your use out of it. Anything you make is good at this point. I mean, did you go into it as an investment, or you're just trying to make as much money as you can and sell this thing? Yeah, you're going to lose some value. Even if you buy a second stock, well, you've lost money because you had to buy a stock.
And it isn't going to be worth as much as an untouched, pristine one. But you say they're going for $1,800. Do you mean a used like beater is going for $1,800, or one that's pristine, still in the original box, and the box has never been opened?
Yeah, one of those NRA 100%. Yeah, dude, that's
apples and oranges, right? Like, now your gun isn't an $1,800 gun. That's like saying, oh, a Ford Mustang is worth blah blah blah, and then this one that my grandma drove for 30 years, is not that car. It's a different car. But yeah. But I think I
Yeah.
agree, and I think that there's probably people in 2023 that have become appreciative of modifications, because nowadays you don't. There are still modifications done to guns, but because the things have changed, the way that guns, people didn't get modifications like professional shooters probably got guns modified, but
Hmm.
most people just took a hacksaw to their gun. So I think there's probably a not a demand, but there's at least an appreciation and a potential buyer out there who would appreciate that mod, to the gun. And of course, they're going to expect it not to be $1,800, right? Don't be
Yeah, because
don't
I'm
think it's
looking
going to
stuff
add
up.
to the value. It is going to lose the value.
Yeah, I'm looking stuff up now. You have stuff like new in the box, and like presentation cases going for like 9 grand. But meanwhile, here is one that said the price ended at $1,200 for one at 98%. Your gun's not at 98%. Don't even worry about it. These are people. This is the Rob Report kind of, pristine
Hmm.
investment guns, or a presentation gun that's set on a shelf at Grandpa's house. Yours was used in the field, and the reason, I mean, in the field and used for trap. Dang. Um, nah. If you want to sell it, dude. You can set a price, but don't get caught up in this. Oh, I saw him going for this much. Well, that was the high end. You don't have one that's 98%.
Well, and I think you've got a great perspective there too. That I mean, if this is someone who's owned it since 1965, I own a
Mhm.
pre-65. So if they've owned it that long, then anything they get for it is worth more than the 100 or something bucks they bought it for. I don't know that
Yeah.
gun, but I don't know how high end it is. But it's unless it's a $7,000 gun when it was bought, they made money on it that way. But the time with the gun, you're never going to get paid for your sentimental value, and you are selling it for the monetary value. But you keep those memories, right? Take some pictures of it or whatever,
Hmm.
and keep the memories. But yeah, anything you get is money in the bank for whatever the next project or the bill you're paying or whatever it is that you have to sell it for.
I don't like selling guns, and I've not never sold one. But I look at it this way: if you're selling a gun for a reason, you want to purchase your next gun. Just look at whatever you lose between the price you paid and the price you sold it for as a rental fee. Pretend you rented that gun for that time period. What does it come out to?
Yeah, and if
Now,
you chopped into the stock and messed with it, you're not going to get your deposit back.
yeah.
At least not your full deposit. So it's just like that.
Anything else, man? You just look at it as a rental. If you $1,500, you bought a FN a Brown FN Browning high power in the '90s. It was your favorite gun. You shot the snot out of it. You got new grips on it. You sent it out to cylinder and slide. They put a hammer on it and another trigger. So all in on that gun in the 30 years you owned it, you topped out spending like $2,000 on the thing. Well, now you go to sell it. It has cylinder and slide thing. It's worn. The finish is worn because you draw on it, use it, and everything. You're not going to get the $2,000 you put in it. But if you get a grand for it or $800 for it, you got 30 years of use out of this thing. Congratulations. 30, you lost, and I do air quotes, $1,200, but for $1,200, you got 30 years of use, and it was just like you wanted. Now you're selling it.
Well, that's a sad note, selling guns to end the show. So,
Let's talk about something great. Let's talk about something fun. Like, hey, you should get a new gun. You should buy an awesome gun. If you sold a gun.
well, let's talk about this Sunday. There's the Massachusetts rally, so to speak, in Quincy, Massachusetts, for the 4420 bill that's kind of hanging in limbo. So if anybody's in the Massachusetts area, but didn't you mention something that's happening on Sunday in New Jersey also?
Yes, Sunday in New Jersey, we're CNJFO. We're going to be at Union Hill Gun Club introducing kids to firearms with the youth shoot. The thing is, if you want to be involved in the youth shoot in 2024, you need to sign up. Go to cnjfo.com and sign up as soon as tickets become available. Because what we do is make a list up. And if you didn't make it this year, your name goes on next year's list. So if you want to get in now. Get in as soon as possible because the event fills up. We have kids come out. We have food. It's catered. We have prize bags. The kids go to class and learn firearm safety. They win prize bag. Each kid gets a prize bag of swag and gear. And then we do some raffle stuff, and it's really a lot of fun. So that's what we're having. And this is also another reason you should support your local Second Amendment advocacy groups because they do things like this. You just have to learn about them. And I'm also obviously going to be, we're closing out the show, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. I'm also going to have my diversity shoot on the 31st, August 31st at Recoil Range in Monroe, New Jersey. Follow us on eventbrite.com under Tony Simon. I'll be sending out emails to everybody that's already purchased a ticket. Also, go to diversityshoot.com and you can, again, take the link directly to Eventbrite. I'm available if you want to follow me on social media. I'm at Simon Says Train on Instagram, Simon Says Train on Facebook. The second is for everyone on Facebook and second for everyone on Twitter. I also have a podcast that I still haven't put out yet, and I have a lot of great interviews, but it's called The Second is for Everyone podcast because I have no originality, so everything's named the same thing. Also, it doesn't confuse people.
You say you have one that's ready to go?
I have one. All I have to do is make commercials for it. I want to make some new commercials, celebrate Ammo Lab as my ammo sponsor. So I'm making that, and I'm making up my own commercial for them. And also, I think I'll do maybe a High Point one too, because we just had them on our show. High Point Firearms. Yeah, we had them on Gun and Gear Review podcast talking about the Yeet Cannon and other things, High Point. So that was fun.
So I've been sitting here while Tony's chatting about what he's got coming up and the podcast that he's with. I've been posting for Brooke Cheney, who does the Suicide Prevention Saturday show coming up next. Well, not quite right after this, but soon after this evening in a couple hours. That's a weekly, consistent look at creating better conversations with ourselves and with the other side about mental health awareness and suicide prevention. So we're happy to link to that each week, kind of consider ourselves an opening act to that show. Then beyond that, later on in the night, Hillbilly Up will probably do his show. He usually does his show in the evening. And then in the overnight slot, we have a link to DM Foss. So when this show's over, it'll suggest you check that one out. So if you're up at night or you know people that are night shift or third shift, let them know about the overnight / mouse party every other week.
Let me throw this out. I'm going to be on the Weekly Bullet tonight.
That happens after this, right?
Yeah, 8 o'clock tonight, Eastern Standard Time.
Yeah, he does it right on top of Brooke. So.
No, really? I wasn't aware. I'm sorry.
Well, he doesn't know. But, so that's Second Amendment Foundation's podcast. G23 is saying Chris from the 740 is doing a stream at 5 today. So, right on. Chris was out here earlier, I believe, saying hey.
Yeah, he was.
Great channel from Ohio. And
I think I took a picture with Chris that it might have been Great American Outdoor or Shot. I don't know anyone. I said he was my photo negative with the beard.
Well, he's got a show at 5, and then I guess that's it. We'll be back next week, maybe with Clover. Maybe he's done with guns. He doesn't show up for nothing anymore. He's running around doing whatever. Oh, I guess we should also talk about we had a poll going for the thumbnail on today's show. We had Clover on a Harley-looking touring bike. Maybe it was a Honda. I don't know. Could have been a Honda. We got Tony on an Enduro, and then I was on an electric scooter, or the puppies on an electric scooter. So Tony wins 55%. Who will get across town first? So Tony on the Enduro wins. I come in second. Clover got a sympathy vote. Maybe his grandmom voted for him. But, doesn't look like Clover's getting across town. Sometimes when you don't show up, I guess you don't get a contingent of voters. But thanks everybody for voting in the poll. It does help with the logarithm. When you're watching people on live shows, let them know the poll is there. I act like you have to pay for it. I'm just kidding. It's free. It's a piece of YouTube. You can play with it, and it creates interactivity, gives people a thing to click on, and it gives you a thing to talk about. And you can do more than one. Like I just closed that one. I could open up another one. I don't know what the record is for how many we've done in the show, but there's some interactive little pieces of YouTube that makes it more fun. But the little secret is the robots see all that as more fiddling with the video, more people interacting with the stream, so that they rank that higher. So let your hosts know, people that you appreciate, that they can use that and play with it. Same with if they're on StreamYard, pulling up people's names like this. I don't think that helps the logarithm, but people like it, right? People can see their name. People can read something on the screen besides just our icons wiggling around. Anyway, that's a little bit of coaching, I guess. We do that on Tuesdays. Sometimes Clover shows up for that one. And we will end it with a commercial for our store. If you want to grab something from our store, we certainly appreciate it. Along with our Patreons, that's how we keep our servers running and the software paid for. So this was our show. We'll be back next week with another one.
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.